Okay. I can see how this would quickly become very frustrating. So I heard Daniel go on about this question um, about basically going on tilt because of overconfidence. If you've been around me for a while, one of the things that I talked about is in regards to when you go into a series of winning trades, you get this Midas touch syndrome. You think everything you touch, every trade you're going to take is going to be a winner. You're just so dialed in. You have this uncanny ability to know exactly what price is going to do next. And the last several trades for the entire week, you've been just killing it, slaying it. And even when scaled in terms of your contract sizes, everything's still delivering, and it's just like a sense of invincibility. I had a bout of that when I first started learning how to trade better, not just simply read a book and think I know what I was doing. And I had that little short period of time where I thought I had everything corrected. Everything's perfect now, and I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm going to start doing more trades. And the first trade that I had was a losing trade after a series of wins, and I started upscaling the leverage in the bond market. I felt debilitated. Like it was completely scary. Like, oh no. It wasn't the fact that I lost the money, because it wasn't even that much money. It was the fact that I had all this wind in my sails, all this confidence, and it hit me right when I thought that I had everything figured out. And you get this sense that you're invincible. You get this King Kong feeling. And the only thing I learned to do to compensate for that, because you're going to have to continuously take trades, even when you take losing trades. Either you have to arrive at the point where you don't do this anymore because you can't take risk and you can't take losses and you can't work through that, or you're going to have to condition yourself to say, I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not going to make money on every single trade, and I can't have winning streaks that go on forever. So what'll happen is you'll have to build in these plateaus. Okay. So everybody imagines the idea of you going in, starting with one contract, building out to two contracts, then to four, then to eight, and then 16, 32, 64, and vice versa, on and on and on. In a perfect world, that'd be great. But you're going to have plateaus, and your operation as the trader is going to be impacted by reality. Some things are going to happen where you do it wrong. You got in too soon, you got in too late, you picked the wrong PD array, the market just shifts against you, and nothing you're using with that bias is going to work that day. And that's the reality. Sometimes things change and you have no control over it. So what are we left to do? What I learned was, especially if you are someone that's going to be a high frequency trader, that doesn't mean 30 trades in a day, but if you're trying to trade every day, try this for yourself. If you can go 5 winning trades in a row, okay, and you're trading with more than one contract, say you're doing 2 or 3 contracts on the micro, your 6th trade, even though you may be affording to go up one more micro, or you feel the itch to do that, go down to 1. And what that has shown me over time, and the students I've taught do that, is while you're making money and you're building new equity in your account, the eventual loss is coming, but it's always going to show up when you just raised up your leverage. And by having 5 winning trades and then go down to the smallest scale of a trade you can take, it doesn't seem like that's logical. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people, are going to take opposition to that. They're like, no, you have to push your edge when you have it. You don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm trading with a real account this year, and I'm pushing the whole micro process. And I put over $400 on that account today. Now, $400 is not a lot of money, but $400 when it starts with a $10,000 account, and I'm trying to produce this mindset in all of you as working class hero approach, not biggest prop firm payout, not Robin's Cups winner. I'm talking about making your ends meet, how to start with humble beginnings. Wait a minute, you said $10,000. I'm already out of this equation. It can be 5,000. It could be 1,000. Whatever it is that you're going to start with. I'm not saying that you should start with anything that I'm starting with. I'm just saying from a hypothetical stance. People ask me all the time, how would I do small account? How would I go into this with a real sober approach to doing it? You can't get any more sober than one micro contract. And honestly, the majority of you listening to me, I guarantee you, whatever you earn at your job, one micro contract in trading you can do that. Like you literally can do that. And I framed the idea around scaling back to one contract after 5 winning trades, and without fail, either the 6th or 7th trade many times would have been where I took another loss. Now, if I was staying with my program that every time I made $2,500, I could do another contract of the bonds. And if I'm building up, on that 6th trade, I may have been in 3 contracts or 5 or whatever it was I was going to move up to, because I wanted to keep building equity. I wanted to keep making more money. Well, if now I scaled back down to one contract, it's the smallest I can trade. And if I took that loss, it felt like a victory. So instead of feeling defeated and deflated and feeling demoralized because I had my biggest position on now, eventually it's going to happen. It may be your 4th trade and you have sides on. Maybe you scaled up because it's your 4th trade. It's still going to happen. You're eventually going to have a loss with your maximum leverage on. You can't avoid it. It's going to happen. If you're going to scale up, that's going to always happen. But my only solution I ever came up with for my own trading, and I've been teaching this to people for 25 years, if you take whatever number it is, it might be 3 for you. It may be 8 trades. It may be 10 trades, whatever it is. Learn to build in plateaus. And what that'll help do is you won't get these roller coaster equity swings where you might be able to be, when you're on the right side of the marketplace and you're hot, you're just doing really, really well, you can parlay a money account up pretty good. But what happens to all traders is they go through that big drop down in equity because they go into a tailspin and they want to get quickly back to that old equity high because they feel like they're failing. It'll never happen. It'll never happen unless they get it back there real quick. So if you can control the degree and severity of the drawdown, and the only way you can do that is by scaling back after you have a series of winning trades, because you know what's going to happen. The inevitable is going to happen. You're going to have a losing trade. So if you build in these, I make money, I add, make money, and stop adding. Go back to one contract. Trade that, okay? And if you don't get stopped out or take a loss, go up one more contract. If you don't get stopped out, go back one more contract. And do that. It feels like it's slowing you down. You're never going to get to your goal. But as I mentioned when I opened the conversation up this week with the micros, if your whole idea around trading is based on a fixed percentage return, mine, for this model, this idea of showcasing it, in some people's minds, it may be too high. 7.5% a week it's a respectable amount of money. Okay, no matter what you start with, 7.5% growth a week is really, really, really good. It may be too high for you, but if you aim for, say, 2% a week, it's even easier. If it's 1.5% a week, very, very easy. But I think for someone that's been studying with me and they have a model that works well, I think honestly 7.5% is realistic. And the numbers are the testimony to it. If you take that 7.5% and you do it over the course of implementing a $5,000 base of equity, whether it be that's your buffer for your prop account, or if you actually put real money in an account, the real money obviously is more risk. You could lose that entire thing. The prop, whatever your buffer is before they blow the account out, say it's close to $5,000 or whatever. I don't know. I don't trade prop, so I'm just hypothetically saying there may be a prop account out there that's essentially $5,000 before you blow it. Either way, it's the same thing. So if you go in thinking I'm going to trade with one micro, and what's the minimum that you have to do to get 7.5%? What's $375 for one micro week one? The fixed percentage gain stays the same. It's not going to fluctuate. It's going to, whatever it is that you set for as a target, that's you're going to do it. Well, if it's $375, you have several ways to skin that cat. If you're going to try to trade every single day, all you have to do is make 37.5 pips, or I'm sorry, 37.5 handles. If it's 4x, then that's what it would be too. But if you're a high frequency trader and you're using the models that I teach, you're hopefully seeing the reality is that 37.5 handles is not hard. Like, you can get a dozen of those in a day, in one single day, one 24-hour period of trading, all sessions. You can do a dozen of them, up, down, both directions, without even a bias. But now, bringing in the ideas of the opening range, looking at pre-session, obvious draws on liquidity, working with a bias, all these things coalescing into more odds in your favor, not perfect, not without a doubt, you're always going to make money. That's not what I'm selling here. By using these enhancers to just simply trading intraday volatility, where you work with one side of the marketplace. You only want to be a long taker, or you only want to be shorting today. Where the probabilities are on the higher time frame, sticking with that. Using one micro, if you can see a trade that frames out the potential based on what I teach, 100 handles or more, and you watched me do it today with a live account. It's a real account that was not demo, okay? One micro did what many of you earn on a day's wage at your job. And it wasn't that hard. It wasn't that long of a trade in there. Using the levels I've identified, the buy side was a minor buy side, and the sell side was what it was. And I gave you a minor sell side, and I gave you the hardline sell side. I was in Dodgy's live stream, and I said that I favored the idea that they were going to take out the CPI low. I felt they were going to run that. And then when I gave a visual representation of that, you knew exactly what I was looking for. Now, if it would have ran up the minor buy side first, then I would have taken any short from after that initial run. But because it was back and forth inside there, I said, I'm not interested in anything yet. Can't see anything yet. But then it poked its head below that inversion fair value gap, the big orange box. Once it did that, it traded back up inside of it. I knew, because it had reached for the relative equal highs but failed to do it, and they're going to gun for those CPI lows. And if it's going to do that, it's going to go for the hardline sell side, which was annotated in the chart that I posted on X. So I just simply did that trade. I knew it was going to give me more than 37.5. I knew it was going to sweep the low. So I went just a small degree below that, placed the order in it. You saw everything that's in the recording, and then bang, hammered it. Way above what the model calls for by the math. The technicals bring that mediocre model, that's simple math. If I want to make 7.5% a week, all I need to do is find a trade each day, 5 times a week, for 37.5 handles. Okay, so if I look for anything that looks like 40 handles, which is easy to spot if you can read price action the way I'm teaching, if it's affording it to you, running on an old low or running on an old high or relative equal highs, or an inefficiency that's below or above the market, whatever you're looking for as a draw, and that's the beauty of what I teach, you have that flexibility. You can pick that. And I'm just using simple liquidity runs. That's it, using a fair value gap entry model. In this case, it was the inversion fair value gap, and targeting the liquidity that was formed on the initial run up at 830, which was a really muted CPI number. And because the data's, nobody trusts that data. It's old. Like all the data they're releasing, I don't have any faith in any of that stuff. And until they get things sorted out, it's probably going to stay like that. But real micro contract, real brokerage firm, not demo, and it's the same stuff I teach. That same simple approach done in another trade, put over $400 in the account. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was working as a working man, a 20-year-old, whatever, before getting into this industry, $400 in one day, that's good money. I mean, that's good money. You do that every single day, it's $2,000 a week. You can make ends meet with that. If you're not living above your means, you can do it. Now, if you have 12 kids and you have a gambling habit and a substance abuse problem, then probably it's going to be a hardship for you. But I'm hopefully talking to someone that's got a little bit of common sense and knows that they shouldn't end up in that situation. But the micro plan that I offered as a suggestion, I'm actually implementing that. I'm actually putting it to task. And as you make money, okay, as soon as you get to $2,500, then and only then can you do another addition with a micro contract. What? I gotta wait that long? Yes, with this volatility, you absolutely have to. You want to do this the right way where it gives yourself a chance. And the math works. It's very liberating when you realize that you don't have to have an ultra tight stop. You don't have to have that. When you have a 1 micro, it's $2 per handle. What happens if you're very, very brand new? Okay, you're brand new. You see these relative equal lows. You feel confident it's going to go down there. The daily chart looks like it wants to keep going lower, and you're just scared because you don't want to get into these moves too early and get stopped out. Look at where you think it's going to go over the weekend. Look at old moves, okay? And study where price action was at right before it ran out those highs or lows that you would look at as perfect ideal scenarios to draw on liquidity. How many times did it move against it 100 handles before going there? It's not happening a lot. Not if you know what you're looking for. So what am I giving you as an example? Let's assume for a moment you think the market's going to go lower. And I'm not done. I'll let a couple of you ask some more questions. I know some of you want to say something to me, but let me finish this thought before I get into it. Let's assume you think it's going to go lower. It's relative equal lows. It's real clear. It's obvious. The daily chart's heavy. Everything's working towards going lower. And you see the market create a inversion fair value gap. Okay, so it's an up, close, buy side of sell side efficiency that we've now traded below. So now you expect that to act as a catalyst to get you into a short that goes lower. Okay, your stop would be above candle number 1 that formed that inversion fair value gap. So, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It would be candlestick number 3's high. So if that is what you're working with, what happens if you go beyond that and you use 100 handle stop? Even though you're only risking the idea of getting to that relative equal low, and it has to at least give you 37.5 or 40 handles, whatever it is, whatever your criteria is. I'm just giving you a suggestion as to watch as a case study in my own hands. You have to come to this conclusion on your own and weigh it out what you think is, because your skill set's going to be what it is. It may be better than what I'm using here. Like I'm just pantomiming someone that's just found their way with a model that's consistent, not perfect, but you're able to find your own way through price action. So I think 37.5 handles, given the volatility, that's reasonable. But if you use 100 handle stop and your minimum expectation is to have 37.5, or we'll just roughly call it 40 handles, and you're looking at a trade that can yield more than that, but you only need less than, you can have a stop loss of $200 risk and then see how many times it goes in your favor. And you may have a negative R as you start this. And you'll see many times, if your analysis is correct, you will be building in a big buffer And if you lose $200 and you lose your mind over that, trading's probably not for you. Because what are you going to do when you're trading and you have $3,000, $4,000, $10,000 on risk? You may not be able to ever trade that leverage. You may never be able to do that. It may be something that says, I just can't do that. I can make money consistently. I can make $500 a day over here and $1,000 a week consistently, but I can't take a stop out or drawdown or in one trade I'm losing over $5,000. I can't wrap my mind around that. And I have students have came forward and said, look, I do great as an income trader, but I can't build it up. I've tried everything I could. And as a mentor, I've done everything I could to educate and encourage and tell them to do this, do that. Something happens in them, they wig out and they can't do it. Is that failure? No. It just means that that's your barrier for right now. Will it always be there? You don't know, and I don't know. But trying to plow through it and force your way through it because you want to make more money, that's the wrong thing to do. So stay in income-based trading and then work towards trying to grow through it through growing pains, but trying to smash through like a wrecking ball. Like I'm gonna get on the other side of this because I should, because I want to make more money. Maybe you're not equipped for it yet. Maybe you need 5 more trading years where you're just making very good living, 6-figure living income. And then something will happen to you where you've matured or you've built up enough money, even as an income trader, that your nest egg is like you can take on a little bit more risk. So even though you may only have $50,000 or $100,000 in your trading account, that $5,000, isn't so impactful even beyond what you lose in your account because you have reserves in CDs, fixed income, real estate, wherever you have it parked outside your trading account. So there's a lot of factors here, and that's what I'm trying to implement and put your focus on something that's the smallest degree of emphasis, which is one single micro contract. I'm not trying to make more than anybody else with that one micro contract. What I'm trying to show is this logic works. This is how you implement it. You go in looking for this. We're not reinventing anything. You guys understand how I trade inversion fair value gaps. You understand how I target liquidity. I gave you the lines that I'm going to use today. And 2 trades, bang, micro, there it is, over $400. Real money, okay? Real money. And my suggestion to you is, what would something like that do for you? Forget all the other stuff you see people doing, whether it's my students or somebody else that's, repping another strategy or whatever. They may be making millions. I got $1 million in payouts. Okay. How's that help you? Where's that putting bread in your pocket? How's that making your bill money easier on your own wallet? If it ain't, then it's useless. You can, all the claps and support and like nod to them like, yeah, it's well done. But at the end of the day, you can't spend their money. So I've had so many people ask me, can you just show us outside of a demo account, can you just show us what it would be like for those individuals that want to make that transition finally from maybe doing prop, or they've been doing demo enough so now they feel confident. They have a skill set that they can trust in their own hands. They make their own decisions on their own. They're not looking at somebody else to influence them. This is just one way. It's not the only way. It's not the be-all, end-all approach. But I'm trying my best to be a practical voice of reason where it's going to be very difficult for anybody to argue against this as a good starting point for someone that's just trying to now take on real risk. It's responsible on both my part as the educator, and it's responsible on your part as the person trying to implement this information. Because if you're going to try to really risk money, you don't want to do it with a large degree of risk in the beginning, because you can set yourself back in progress by going out there and blowing out real fast. It'll make you afraid of every trade that you take in the future. It will always have that impact on you. It creates scar tissue. So isn't it reasonable for you to try to go in and say, okay, if I take a trade with $2 per handle per trade, as a trade that takes 30 handles of drawdown, that's $60. You probably spend more at the McDonald's drive-through than that. And How many times you've gone through the drive-through and the meal wasn't even that good? You wish you wouldn't have went there. But you're still going to come back to the drive-through tomorrow and get your breakfast before going to work, right? You're going to go back there and get your kids the stuff. You're going to be doing everything at that same place. You're going to keep frequenting. You're going to say all the time in the world, I'm never coming back here. But you'll be back there before the weekends. So the same mentality needs to be applied with your model. You might take a loss. It may not work for you. But it has to be a loss that you know that this is reasonable. It's not perfect. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm brand new at this. So let me just expect this to happen once in a while. And be thankful that when it does, it's not taking a lot from you. And you'll see being imperfect is still profitable. And I'll say that again. You can be imperfect. You can miss the perfect entry. You can miss the perfect exits. You can trade with the smallest amount of leverage and be profitable. And too many people get into this and they lose sight of what it is they're learning this for because they watch somebody, they watch me, they watch a student, they watch somebody else doing another way of trading, and they got lots of money. And you want to have that experience. And you want to experience that splash over by being close to them or engaging with them. And it feels good. Like, if I just hang out with them, it'll just happen for me. And it doesn't work like that. You're going to have to earn your money. And I'm hopefully going to be able to communicate that effectively to the individuals that always wrestle with, I got to make a lot of money or I'm not satisfied. Well, if you walked outside your house and someone was nice enough to send you every single day in an unmarked envelope, they were putting $150 in an envelope and leave it in your mailbox every day. Are you going to complain about that? No, you're not. You're going to be thankful. You're going to hope it doesn't stop. You're not trying to ask for more. You're not going to try to leave a note and say, hey, can you leave me more? You don't offend the person that's gifting it to you. And that's what you should be doing with your model. Your skill set and your model in the beginning, be content with enough. Don't say, I've been making money. I've been doing this for 4 days now. Now I'm going to go up and trade a mini. No. You're going to feel like you want to do it because you've been doing something profitable. You've never experienced that before. So you think you've conquered that. No. Stay in it for a couple months. Learn to be an income-based trader. Income-based trading is the surest way of profitability. Building up huge runs in equity, that's a skill set everybody tries when they get into this. As soon as they start making money, they think, well, I'm just going to build the account real big. Until they realize they hit a threshold. Whatever that threshold is, the first loss that comes in there, immediately they forget their model. They forget their confidence they had. They doubt everything. They think every stop hunt that's ever going to happen is now going to happen on the next trade they take. What has it done? It's caused scar tissue. And you're afraid. So much so that even if you did use one micro, you're going to feel the weight of the right or wrong end result of that trade. Why? Because you were rushing to do something you weren't psychologically prepared to do. So you have to build in this plateauing as you make money, as you make winning trades. If you have more than one contract, scale back. Now, what would you do? I'm going to say this part and I'm going to take the next person to talk. What would you do if you're only trading with one micro and that was your income-based idea and you're not building up another contract? So you wouldn't go 5 winning trades and then go back down to one contract because you're already trading at one micro as it is. So what would you do? Don't take the next trade. Paper trade it. Tape read it and see what the outcome is. And then what will happen is you will build this rhythm where you'll get a feel. And what will genuinely happen for you is you will pick up on when you're getting cocky. You will feel like you're King Kong, you're the big swinging dick in the neighborhood, you know everything. You got it all mapped out. You're going to be so rich and all you have to do is push a button and it's all going to fall in your pocket. That moment when that happens, you'll be more sensitive to it instead of saying, when you feel, yeah, I am that good. And I'm so good that I'm going to go and trade even larger. In fact, I'm going to trade silver right now because I have big balls. I have big balls because I've made so much money trading in NQ. And I'm going to go out there and conquer silver now. And then when you do, silver takes you and throws you and ragdolls you. And you lose 10, 15% of your account. Like that. That's a lot of damage. Emotionally, ego, psychologically, you've harmed yourself. And that carries over for the rest of your career. You're all going to have that moment where you've done something to yourself that if you could have just stopped yourself before doing it, you would have never remembered that ever again. If it would have been a smaller loss on a 1 micro, never would have bothered to worry about it again. But that first big loss where you have size on, or you did something in a market you're not used to trading because now you feel like you got the Midas touch. Everything you touch is profitable. It bites you. And then you're going to regret, you're going to have remorse, and it's going to cause you to second guess everything you do. And the only way you can prevent that is by building in this control mechanism where you have a model that you follow. You're going to trade and take trades until you get a stop out. If you get a stop out, you drop down half the leverage you just took a loss on. If you get stopped out again, drop down and lower your leverage. If you're aggressive about cutting back, if you're trading with 3 micros and it's your 3rd trade that you win on, your 4th trade, you're allowed to take that same trade again. If you take a loss there on your 5th trade, don't trade 2 contracts. Go right back down to 1. You need the plateau. You need to build in these. Well, think about the exchanges. They have circuit breakers. They only allow the market to drop so much, and then it has to trade up a little bit before it's allowed to, freely trade again and go lower. You have to build in circuit breakers for yourself, and it's just you controlling how much you can do something and when you can do it. But if you go in there and just plow ahead thinking, I'm just going to use, whatever aggressive model of risk management you're going to implement, optimal F, Vince, his name's escaping me now. The guy that Larry Williams used for his optimal F approach to money management. Whatever your form of money management is, all of that stuff, when you're winning, is great. But there is a loss out there. It's in the offing. It's going to happen. And you want to be able to control yourself and have a track record of you having implemented this in the past, where you, even though when you're on a winning streak, you're sober mind, you say, okay, I have been winning. And while I may not be feeling overconfident right now, I am aware that an eventual loss is coming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare for that. My leverage affords me 10 mini contracts because of the equity I'm trading right now. So I'm afforded $200 a handle because my equity allows for that. But because I have taken 5 winning trades, I'm going down to 1 mini. Now, for some of you, the way you're going to do it, you're like, ain't going to happen for me. And you're going to blow your account. You're going to blow your combine. You're going to blow whatever it is you're trading. And you're going to waste money trying to rush to get back to that old feeling of what it felt like when you had this much equity or you were that close to a payout. If you would have implemented this idea when you were just $100 away from handing a payout to yourself on these prop firms, if I had $1 for every person in the world that trades these prop firms that sends me an email and says, you ain't going to believe it, ICT. I already knew what they're going to say. I was only this much money away, and all I had to do was make this much money, and I could have got 10,000, I could have got 50,000, I could have got whatever it was they were going to get as a payout. And they impulsively traded larger leverage because they felt that's all they had to do is get something big to push them through the finish line. And my response is always, what would have happened if you just would have did 1 micro contract and you used the whole session to get that? You would have accomplished it, and you could have weathered being stopped out a few times and still been very, very close to getting your payout. And it may not have happened that day, but you could have went in the next day, still trading 1 micro, and got yourself to that payout. I never thought about that. Right. Because you're drunk. You're drunk. You're drunk on new equity highs. You're drunk on the euphoria of winning. And you think that the next thing you do is going to be the bigger payout, the bigger win, because you're not satisfied with getting $75 as a win. 37.5 handles on 1 micro. You've lost your first love. You're doing this to make money. You're doing this in a way where you can do it without any fear of loss. You're doing it with accepting the measure of risk that's afforded to you for the leverage that you're using. But what happens is you don't feel that anymore when you're winning. And that new equity that you see in your account, that's not real money. It's not real money, folks. I don't care if it's a live account or not. It's not real money. It's only real until it ends up in your bank account and you're holding it or spending it. It's all digital money. It's a number. You have not realized that money until you had a withdrawal wired to your account. Then it's real. But you look at that number while it's still ticking around in your trade. I'm up $5,000. Oh, I'm up $6,000. Oh, you're all hopped up on goofballs. So you have to find a way to measure your expectation, rein in your euphoria, manage your fear, manage your uncertainty, and your greed by plateauing. Whatever number it is for you, you win, you win, you win. The fourth trade, it might be a loser. So if you have size on, scale back to the smallest one. If you win, you still made money. But if you lose, you didn't lose the most. And that's real important to do in the beginning stages of your career. You have to structure a way of losing in a balanced approach. You don't have to blow the account. You don't have to have breakneck drawdowns to just meteoric drops. You don't have to have that. But some of you think that profitable trading, world-class Robbins Cups responses to building an account where you have to go up real fast and drop down a lot and real jagged up and down. You don't have to do that. You don't have to have your equity curve look like the silver market's chart. Looked great going up, didn't it? And then that's what an account equity looks like when you blow it. And it's completely avoidable. Scaling back, scaling down. So anyway, I hope that answered your question, Daniel. I went a little bit more than would be necessary, but you know that's how I am. Slick Rick, can you hear me? Did you drop off?
Hello?
I can hear you.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, thanks. Everything's hitting home really great tonight. I've been studying your content for about a year now, and it's really opened my eyes up to the possibilities. It's amazing. Um, Honestly, I kind of just wanted to, it's Friday. Let's loosen up. We don't have to talk about trading the whole time.
Yeah,
I
whatever you
was
want
I
to talk
was
about.
I was really liking the conversations, kind of about prepping and going over, what we can do. Going back to that space about 3 weeks ago when you were wanting to get uh, more info about how to prepare ourselves, hear from people that have been in these situations. I live in Miami, Florida, so sorry, I'm a little out of breath. I was doing a little bit of a workout. Um, I live in Miami, Florida, and I've lived through a lot of hurricanes, and it's really important to make sure that you're prepared for everything. And I remember as a kid, I went through Hurricane Andrew. Uh, that was in '92, and I remember, trees were falling down. We were filling up bathtubs before the water plant was um, shutting off, so that way we would make sure to have enough water. Just little things, making sure we had chainsaws and stuff, so when things did resume back to some sort of normalcy, we were prepared. Uh, it was something that I think we should definitely touch on. I don't know if you have any questions as far as that goes, but
Well, since you raised the topic up,
yeah,
um, obviously as a Floridian, you know what it's like when a hurricane happens and there's extended periods of no power and no gas, no
yep.
resources. How would you how would you right now today, let's say for instance, the Lord forbid this, but by the way, it's probably going to happen eventually. We're going to have a weekend, or it could happen on a weekday, where people just lose their mind and get out there and act a fool. What would happen if your area was affected by that and there was extended periods of no power? So your internet may be affected because of that, unless you have Starlink. Do you have Starlink, or do you use a regular high-speed connection?
I don't have Starlink. I've been wanting to get one because it's just such a valuable resource right now. I do have some like two-way radios that go pretty far for talking to family because I got a lot of family nearby. But I would tell you, it's just from my experiences down here. Whenever there's a hurricane, it just becomes pandemonium. It's
Hmm.
it's it's wild, and everybody's out for themselves. Everyone's taking as much as they can. Not, the shelves are empty that same day, basically. Whenever they put out the notices, you can't get water, you can't get toilet paper, you can't get the simple things. And if that were to happen, you definitely need to be prepared. Generators, batteries, flashlights. Like I said, even we don't know what could happen. Type of event where like you need to have access to even be able to leave your city or whatnot. Um, what was the exact question you wanted to know? Like if it was pandemonium, what would I?
Well, how would a civil unrest or another hurricane
Mhm.
where it knocks out the power and your
Yeah.
internet, how's that going to impact your trading? Or let's just say
Uh huh.
you still have a connection, but
Okay.
you have all this stuff going around you. There isn't a lot of things you can get from the store. You didn't stock your house up. You didn't do it ahead of
Right.
time. How is that going to impact your decision making as a trader? I mean,
Oh
sure,
my
we can all
goodness.
say it's going to
I
be easier
mean,
for you, or is it going to be harder?
it's without a question. I don't even think I would be trading, to be honest, because that's going to be the least of my worries at that
Right.
moment, And the stress levels you're going to be under. The last thing you're going to want to be thinking about is the charts. You're
Right.
it's you know
You're going to be saying, I wish I would have bought some extra this or
yeah,
that.
yeah. Forget
Yeah,
about trading. You're worried about all the basics that we take for granted every day,
exactly.
basically. You know, um, and just one thing I will note though is if you've lived somewhere where you've gone through these things, there is a sense of community when these things happen. So if you're in a place where things like this don't happen, you have to be extra careful because
Mm.
like I said, people that grew up down here, you know, shit happens and people lend hands out, uh, everybody after Hurricane Andrew, I remember trees were falling, streets were blocked. I was out there with chainsaws and machetes, and everybody's helping each other, moving stuff out of the road just to kind of get back to some normalcy.
Mm.
Um, so it's very interesting, but I do worry about people that live in other places that haven't gone through this because the level of unrest and the pandemonium that's going to happen in areas that are not used to that, and even as far as like the emergency services, like those people haven't really dealt with it either, so they're going to be freaking out. So
Right.
that's something that, like I said, if you're in an area that's never experienced it, oof, you, I would not want to be there.
Before we brought the conversation up in our community, Has it ever been something that you thought about prior to, or just never given any thought?
Oh no, man. Like I'm not in a position to be like a full blown prepper, but I want to be, and I think that's something that you know I don't have the resources right now to do it, but if I did, I would be full blown prepper because I'd rather need it. I mean, have it and not need it than need it and not have it. You know?
Well, I mean, it's something you can do a little bit each week with. I mean, if you buy like 5 or 6 extra cans of stuff that you know you're going to eat, it's non-perishable.
Right.
You build it up that way. Some water filters, some water containment, like jerry cans. They have a nice one they just released. It's like you pour water into it, and as you
Mm-hmm.
pour it out, it filters it, and it does like 5,000 gallons. I have a lot of high price water filters and reverse osmosis in the house, and I have 50
Right.
gallon drums that catch rainwater and whatnot. But with the stuff they spraying in the sky, I'm a little reluctant to just drink that. I still have to filter it. But
Right.
I think that as you make money, in today's evolving world globally, not just here in the States, I think we're going to start seeing some things that's going to require us to have a little bit better preparedness. And it's peace of mind, it's insurance. And having a little bit extra things that, and if your way of life was interrupted, your internet was interrupted, um, your power was interrupted, your ability to heat your home or cool it down, and like you're in Florida, it gets hot down here.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
like going down in July and August. I can't stand it. It's like the surface of the
Uh,
sun down here.
I don't blame
But
you. Yeah.
spring and fall and wintertime, I don't mind it so much. But
Yeah.
when it's real hot, I tell my wife all the time, she's like, you want to go down? You know, I'm not going to go down there. I don't want to go down there. It's too hot. But having some kind of a backup, if you're going to be an active trader, you know, a more reasonable thing would be if there's that much turmoil going on, you said it yourself, you're not going to want to trade because you have bigger things to worry about. But if it's not that bad and you're just without power, without internet, having some kind of a backup, otherwise you're not going to be trading. So me personally,
Mm.
I'm considering Starlink because why not? It would give me the freedom to do, like, if I go out with my RV,
Yeah.
I have a link up there because we have a system that, depending upon where I'm at, it isn't always good. So
Right.
I'm contemplating Starlink.
I just got my brother into trading and I've been teaching him as well. We've been like, I've been live streaming my trades to him every day. He lives out in California, but we do a lot of, I love the outdoors. So we do a lot of camping and whatnot. And I've been telling him like, man, how great would it be to just have your Starlink and then like you wake up, do a trade, make your money, and then we're out hiking the rest of the day. The
That's
freedom
living.
that gives you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Dreams for the future.
that's it, man.
Um, yeah. Actually, going back to what you said about the rainwater, I do have, I installed a gutter system on the house, and I have these. They're really cheap. You get the IBC totes. You can go to like I don't know, local marketplace or whatever, like OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace. So people are
Hmm.
getting rid of them. They're 275 gallons, and if you have the space or you can even dig them into the ground if you're that committed. But I have two of those running in, the gutters running into them. So that way, I mean, down here it rains all the time. So, and during a hurricane, it's nothing but rain. So I'll have about, what is that, like almost 500 something
Hmm.
gallons, just in case, because, and then back to the filters. Since I go camping, I got a straw that you could use. I have like a bag that filters it, and slowly it's like takes a little while, but filters your water, and it gives you, like you said, like 5,000 uses. So
Hmm.
you know, camping stuff is great for those type of situations as well. So
All right, brother. Well, I'm gonna let somebody else come up here
yeah,
because
definitely, man, definitely.
if
I
I'm
just
not
wanted to
careful,
kind
I
of
could talk about this for hours
yeah,
and
yeah.
lose
Like I
track of
said,
time.
it was Friday, so I was like, man, let's loosen up. We don't got to talk about trading all the time. So
Yeah, man.
thanks for letting me on, man. It was a
You're
pleasure
very
speaking
welcome.
with you.
Awesome.
All right, take care.
Abundant Luciano. Can you hear me? see you there now. Jeremy Razan. Can you hear me? Not sure if you guys can take your mute button off. Should be a little left-hand side microphone. I gave two people the opportunity to talk, and I haven't heard either one of you yet, so. Obley, can you hear me? How you doing? What's up?
Uh, First of all, thank you for doing this and all the information that you give and that you teach. We appreciate it. But I just have a simple question for you. Um, how do you know when to enter inside the macro or when to enter after the macro? Because most of the time, I find I have better entries entering after the macro is swept.
Well, it gets back to whether or not you are framing a trade that's leading up to a macro time. So if we're bearish and the market's just meandering around, it's sold off a little bit, and you can see there's a fair value gap that it could trade up into. Then it's simply a matter of anticipating it trading up to it during the macro time, so that it's obviously giving you time to engage with it for the entry. If I'm very strong in my convictions about where the market's going to go, in recent volatility, there's been some times where the move will not deliver right during the macro time, but just outside of it, just a little bit, maybe 2 or 3, 4 minutes after it. Whereas before, I'd be like, let me see if it wants to go, and then I'd get a lower PDA rated to get involved there, but not so high up on the sell side of the curve. In this volatility, I would still trust it because things are all messed up. We're getting delayed data. There's a whole lot of manipulation. People are being exposed with weird stuff they've been doing around the world. So there's a lot of chaff in the delivery of price action. So while perfect precision during a 20-minute macro time would, in past history, tell me this is what I'm looking for all the time, I'm finding myself affording a little bit of coloring outside the line. So knowing what you're looking for, how strongly convicted are you about the idea? And the macros are obviously the best case scenario, but don't be surprised if it's trading just past it time-wise. I'm not talking like 20 minutes, but like 5 minutes or less. I think that's a very forgiving barrier to still to operate in. But I don't think that anything more than that would be considered. And I don't know how the other end of your question was framed, but I think I answered the one part of it. Did I not answer it, or you still have something you want to ask me in regards to the macro time? Going once, going twice. Okay, I don't know what happened to you, but I will, I guess I'll go on until somebody else comes up here with something. Yeah, actually, to be honest with you, it's a little distracting. It's actually a whole lot easier being a part of Kit's stream where it's real organic. Everybody's getting a chance to talk, and he's kind of like managing everything. And I can segue in and out of the conversation. When I'm allowing you all to come up and say something, I'm obviously waiting to hear what the question or comments going to be, or the topic. And then in between, it's hard for me to kind of calibrate and go back to a mindset or a framework where I could reach for a topic, because now it's like I have dozens of them I can jump to. Whereas by hearing somebody else talk about something, that's what happened earlier today or this evening. I was listening to them. I didn't even know he was having a stream, but I just signed on and I was just doing my walk around the house that gives me my evening stretch and get the blood flow working. And I was listening to him, and they started talking about the tinfoil hat stuff. And you know me, I'm a sucker for that stuff. But we were talking about all kinds of different stuff, and I know there's a lot of you that don't have any interest in that stuff, and you don't think it's no concern for you to have any worry about it. And I'm not trying to make anybody fearful of anything, but it's real hard not to anticipate some, total nuttery. Like how much, how much of the, and I mentioned this in the Traders Roundup, where people talk about conspiracy theories and, crackpot ideas and whatnot. And I made a mention of, how many conspiracies are left? Like how many are there left? Like, the guy I was just talking, Slick Rick, he lives in Florida. I was looking at a couple of video clips guys sent me, and they said, look at this. What do you think this stuff is? And it's something in the air, down there. Is it balloons? Is it, those drones or whatever? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm fascinated with it. When we were looking at all that stuff in New Jersey and whatnot, we saw a couple things flying around in Maryland. And then later on, just this past year, a company came out and admitted that it was their company. They were implementing their drones. And they stayed up in the air for a long time, so that's kind of impressive. But, the government came out in March of 2020, basically said, by the way, during COVID, UFOs are real, and let's get back to talking about vaccines and whatnot. And if they would have been at any other time, I think people would have been freaking out. But because they were distracted with, I'm going to catch some invisible disease, and if I stand 6 feet apart, I'll be protected from it. So they were distracted by that. But the seed was sowed. It was planted in everybody's mind. And I just see it as priming for them to justify where believers go in the rapture. But, I'm not going to go Bible on you tonight, but I just see it being laid down as it's a perfect excuse for where it went. Where everybody went, there it is. And makes you wonder if you're an atheist. Like, when you see all these things moving forward, maybe you do think there are extraterrestrial life. Maybe you believe that there's these interdimensional beings, or whatever you believe, and you don't have a faith, in a creator or whatnot. To me, that would be a weird. That would be a weird position to hold. Like, to me, it's unfathomable to have that view, which they hold to the idea that there has to be something greater than us and beyond us out there. But they don't accept there's a God or a creator, which is, to me, it's very fascinating. But when you look at all the things that we see going on in the world, this vampiric death cult that has been around for thousands and thousands of years, and now it's being exposed. It's in everybody's nation. It's actors, actresses, musicians, people in high seats of authority. And these people are in very influential positions, and they don't want their names out there. So is it a stretch of the imagination that they wouldn't come up with reasons to distract everybody with bigger problems? Bigger things to contend with, instead of what these people did, these terrible things that they've done. Whether you believe it or not, whether they believe that everybody on that list did anything or not. Obviously, some people did. And some of these people are, being exposed. And I mentioned that during Kit's stream, in other countries, they're seeing people step down from their positions and they're taking actions against them. So why are we not seeing it here? You know, we have a guy that campaigned on the ideas that he was going to come out here and clean up the swamp. He was going to release the Epstein files, and now he's the informant that turned evidence and ratted out Jeffrey Epstein. And now he has all these emails with all these redacted names of the people admitting to these types of things, you know, talking in disgusting dialogue, but says there's going to be no prosecutions and let's just sweep under the rug. Let's get back to more important things, healthcare and the economy. And look at the Dow. The Dow's over 50,000. For Pete's sake, what are you worried about anything else for? It's almost like they're doing anything and everything to get people literally out of their mind. And it's astonishing, really, when you take a step back and you think about the level of lunacy. Governments, not just in America, but governments, the way they're leading or not leading, really, what they're permitting, what they're allowing, and what they're targeting, the things that we should be allowed to do within our Bill of Rights and our Constitution, we're vilified here. You know, and people that are not national citizens here have more rights than we do. If they commit crimes, they get a slap on the wrist, if that. And you watch someone else that's a natural born citizen here, and they get the book thrown at them. And that's by design. They want people to lose their minds over it because they're going to witness their leadership do nothing. They're going to be doing the opposite. And that's the procedure they're following right now. That's the plan. You guys were in my mentorship talking to me about how the QAnon guys and Q, and I told you all that was a psyop. It was all to get people that would have done something, that would have rose up and said, no, let's not do this. It was to coax the military, the people that would have really supported the Constitution and stood in opposition to the things that we're seeing right now. They were lulled to sleep with trust the plan. Trust the plan. How's that working out for you? You got a guy saying, let's just move on. There's nothing to see here. While people are being arrested, stepping down, resigning in other countries, but it's cover up here. That's concerning. And I know you guys are all traders or want to be traders while you're learning. And you're thinking like, you know, what's this got to do with anything? It has everything to do with everything. Everybody's going to be affected by this, and it's going to affect the markets for sure. And what's the sentiment around that? You know, what are we going to find out in the weeks coming? Is there going to be another shocking revelation? Because they've only released half of what they have. And they're busy blocking out everything that they don't want seen. So to me, it's disgusting, really. I don't read those things, and people have tried to send them to me in email. As soon as I know what they're trying to send, I just delete and block them. It's not because I don't, you know, like you or not like you. I don't want to have anything to do with that stuff. Like I know it's there. If I wanted to go look for it and read through all of it, I could do it. I have no interest in seeing it because once you see stuff like that, once it gets in your head, you just can't just go to the recycle bin and just get rid of it. I mean, these are children. Like, these are people that were taken advantage of in the sickest manner possible. And the more you get exposed to that, the more regret you'd have. I know I would. So I just keep myself away from it. Well, I can have conversations with people. I've had conversations with people and never had really seen all that stuff. I was aware of all those types of things going into, in Trump's first election. There's a lot of things that's obvious. All you have to do is take a look at it. And like I said, I was interested in seeing what he was going to do in that position. And you're not seeing that first term president. You're seeing something else, aren't you? So the question is he showing his true colors right now? Or did somebody yank him up and say, here's how this really works. And if you don't do things this way, this is what's going to happen. And I don't know. I don't personally know. And you probably hear my puppy snoring in the background. And if you do, I apologize, but I don't want to disturb her. Part of me says, that's what he is. And another part of me says, yeah, maybe he was a fast and loose kind of guy, and then they drug him into something, so now this is what it is. He's compromised. Either way, no matter how you slice it, it's not good. It's not going to be good for our country. It's not good for leadership. It's not good for where it's going, where our country's being taken. It's not making things better, let's just say it that way. And the red hats make America great. Are you seeing that right now? Because I don't see it. I don't see it, man. Saying that they're going to let the Democrats tell them if they want them to come in and clean up their migrant situation, they have to be invited in or they're not going to go in now. That's not what you said when you first started. And you're supposed to be defending our borders. You're the chief, highest person in the land that's supposed to hold the law up. There's a whole lot of footsie with some stuff. And to say that nobody's getting prosecuted and nobody's being held accountable for the stuff that's loaded, you have all that evidence. You have all those things, those names that are blocked out that your department is blocking that out. You're aware of all that stuff. And to say that it's a hoax, it's a scam, while other countries, those individuals are answering for that stuff. And it's going to be more as the time goes on. And what I was alluding to in the other space was my concern is this. There are people in politics that have done some very unsavory things, and they were exposed as having done so. And anytime a person or people that were going to come forward and bring evidence against them, they had an unfortunate event where they shot themselves twice in the back of the head. And I know suicide takes a lot of effort. It does. It's a real effort. And it takes a great deal more effort to do that second shot in the back of your head. Like it's difficult to pull off. I don't think I could have done that. In fact, I know I wouldn't even tried. I would have never tried something like that. So it begs the question, when these people are in a position of being held accountable for it, does this lead to a great number of them that they finance things that you can't even imagine? I mean, imagine this. They laid down the perfect boogeyman. There was a bio lab, a makeshift bio lab they discovered. And it had smallpox and every other little nasty germ. And they're trying to say they had an intent to spread it and distribute it. Okay. Well, there's your next pandemic. They're already talking about the measles down in the Carolinas, which something that we had already pretty much done away with. We're, you know, measles wasn't even a thing anymore for a long time. Now all of a sudden there's some blooming of that stuff in the Carolinas. Now one can say it was brought in by the migrants. It's brought in by the people that didn't get vaccinated, and they're here and they're bringing that stuff in here. Maybe, maybe not. But it's not a stretch of the imagination, at least from my perspective. You know, look at what they've done to us over the last 6 years. What do you believe? Do you believe your leader, your politicians, do you believe that they have the best for you and your country in mind? I don't see it. I don't care what you're talking about, if it's Republican or Democrat. That's why I've never voted. I've never voted for any of these people. I've never done it. I've never had faith in it. Because I see it as they're part of the same bird, one wing and the opposite wing. But they're still the same person, the same bird that is not going to be the American eagle, okay? It's a buzzard. And what does a buzzard do? It eats dead things. And they're picking the bones of Americans every day. And we're down to the bone, folks. How much more can they do? They're raising taxes up. Grocery prices are through the roof. Grocery stores are faking the weights of stuff. Go to a grocery store and grab some meats and take it over to the scale that you weigh produce on and see if that weight matches what's on there. Because I can tell you it's not happening here. It's corruption everywhere. Everything is corrupt right now. Which is the reason why I started the other channel. Because a lot of people don't see where this is going, but it's getting there quick. And this ain't all there is. This isn't all there is. But it has a whole lot of room to get worse. And if you're tied down to the idea of just chasing money all the time, you just want to make money, you want to profit trading, that's admirable. There's nothing inherently wrong about that. But if you're blinded to that's all you do, that's all you're concerned about, or if you are making money and you're not making your house ready and fortifying yourself and your family with things that you're going to need if things are disturbed in your area, like we have a perfect storm of anything happening now. There's some very, very influential people that are potentially going to be shown as monsters. And a lot of these people are billionaires. And they're already paying for these people to go into other states in the United States and riot. They're paid. They're paid to do this, folks. It's proven. It's fact. What happens when that's no longer effective? What are they going to pay people to do then? What is the government willing to do? And call it something else? What will they intentionally release that causes a real concern? Think smallpox. That's intimidating, isn't it? Don't know what it is? Look it up and see what it is. Because we all know the flu isn't going to scare us again. Nuclear bomb or nuclear radiation and fallout, I've said this, I think we're going to see that. And if you're alive listening to me right now, you're going to see a nuclear bomb dropped in the United States somewhere, and you're also going to see it in Israel. It's absolutely 100% going to happen in your lifetime. And I don't own either of those weapons, so it's not me making a threat. It's just something that it's been written about and it's going to happen. And for the United States, what other mechanism of fear and control could they implement? Nuclear fallout that you can't see, smell, or taste. It's invisible. So it's another perfect boogeyman. Stay indoors, shelter in place. Do you have a Geiger counter at your house? Do you have a Geiger counter? Chances are you probably don't. So if that box in your hand that you're holding right now listening to me, or the box on your wall that tells you what you're supposed to think about, what team's important in politics and in sports, that shapes your opinion about everything, if that box tells you, stay indoors, tape up your windows, put plastic over everything, don't go outside, fallout levels are this high, not every one of you are going to believe it, but a lot of you will, especially if you see a mushroom cloud and video footage of something blowing up somewhere. But what happens if they say, look at this, here's footage of so-and-so at the store, and they just drop dead, and they're really dead, and it starts happening in other places, because somebody that's had enough of the stuff that's going on releases something terrible. And it's a real thing then. Trading's not going to be on the top of the list when it gets to something like that. And I'm not fearful. I'm not trying to sow fear and worry any of you. I'm just saying, have you paid enough attention in the last 6 years where anything's possible now? And if you're so focused on trying to make money, becoming somebody of importance online, and you have not considered just a little bit of life insurance, not the same way as you pay for it if you pass away. I'm talking about just fortifying your house with stuff that you use on a daily basis. Cleaning supplies, extra clothing, shoes, coat, medicines that you use. Just have it. You're going to use it. You're not wasting your money. Non-perishable food. Way to get fresh drinking water. Clean water. How to clean water. First aid stuff. Extra gasoline if you have a safe way of storing all that stuff. I've lived my life like this for probably 15 years, almost 15 years. And I've never woke up fearing or having anxiety about thinking about these things. In fact, I've always felt prepared. And it was gradual in the beginning. But when this stuff started happening in 2020, I wasn't worrying about not having stuff. I wasn't worried about that. But I was worried about people that is not as blessed as I am. And if they didn't have it, what was it going to be like for them? I was given toilet paper, food, over-the-counter medication to friends and family that didn't have it. And they were told by me, get yourself extra stuff. Like I'm telling you, like I've told everybody before. And the level of crazy town that's going on right now, you don't think it's possible that something crazy happens that causes a greater level of fear? Because that's how they get you. They control you with fear. Some kind of boogeyman, some formidable form of fear has to be created. Who's going to believe they have to wear a mask and stand 6 feet apart again? I'm not. I'm not doing it. So what do they have to do now? They got to ratchet it up to something more significant to make you forget about all the things that you're learning about right now. That's what I see coming. I see that happening. Something's going to happen. And it can't be effective if it's Ukraine. It can't be effective if it's Venezuela. It can't be effective if it's Taiwan. It's got to be something right here in our yard. It's got to be inside the states. And it's got to be in a way where people can say, this is going to affect me. Because they need the maximum impact. Because both sides of that aisle in DC are complicit. They have problems. And a lot of people have done some terrible things. And the man that is in office right now that promised he was going to do this, that, and the other thing to clean it all up has all the evidence and the names. And he's already told you that nothing's going to happen. Move on. How do you feel about that? I can tell you, if I would have voted for him, I would feel a certain kind of way right now. I would feel disenfranchised. I would feel like I wasted my vote. And maybe you didn't vote for him and you're saying, see that? Ha ha, you mega weirdos. We tried to tell you. You didn't know this about him. And you didn't know that about all the other people either. Because you're just voting for your team too. You're caught up in the same paradigm. Because if you believe there's a team versus the other team, you're a sucker. Because the theater is to make you think that you have a say for your team. And there's only one team. One team captain. And you never see them. But you have all these pawns, these supporting characters, these actors and actresses. They get paid to play their part, to give you the impression that they're representing you. And they're not representing anything that I stand for. And the question is at what point does this turn the corner and start improving? Where our economies globally improve, where we have faith in our governance, we have faith in our leadership that are supposed to be representing us, not lording over top of us and telling us, this is the facts and you just swallow it because we said so. You know, as traders, our focus is primarily on the economy and the averages that's in the markets. But when you hear these people come out there and the conversations about terrible atrocities that's been committed against innocents, and the response is, the Dow is over 50,000. Why are we not talking about that? That's meant to get people ticked off. It's meant to get people pissed off. It's meant to get people talking about, like we're talking about it right now, going into the weekend. They want to see the response. And I think they're not surprised because everybody largely is asleep. Sure, it's terrible that happened, but what's that got to do with me? All these people, I don't care about them. They're not on my political persuasion. They fragmented and divided the populace. And they made it about us against us, not recognizing them as the monsters that they are, that enrich themselves and enslave us and put more and more taxation, squeezing blood from a rock. And at some point, we're going to have to get there eventually, where that can't happen anymore because there's nothing else to give. What's it cost for you to go to a grocery store now? Sure, you might be making money getting payouts. Sure. But you're still paying a whole lot more for stuff that shouldn't cost that high. Think about it. Why is the groceries so expensive right now? I mean, I understood in 2020 going into 2021. I mean, there were supply chain issues. Okay, it's justified. It's understandable. But grain prices are low. Why is everything so expensive? Meats, I understand it. Cattle prices going up. It's because they've been stocking up their DUMBs, deep underground military bases, putting them in deep freezers. And the other ones that's left, they're stuffing it with mRNA. And they changed the food pyramid. Now they're telling you to eat more meat right after they've been doing 2 years of mRNA injections in pork and beef. All forms of cancer got cured inside of 9 days. Isn't that interesting? So naturally, with all those cures, how are you going to get the remedy? Well, you just got to take this shot. The thing they created that cured it, I mean, it just so happens to be the same stuff that was in the COVID-19 shots and boosters. But hey, if they tell you it's the cure for cancer and you're knocking on death's door, or death's door is knocking on your door, or death is knocking on your door, rather, you're going to be more inclined to do something because of desperation. You're already dying. So what risk is there? So it makes you question everything. Why all of a sudden all these cures happen? They've always had the cures to this stuff because they give it to us. Cancer is a caused thing. You don't wake up and get a case of cancer. Okay? It's injected into you. It's given to you by the things you eat and the things shoved into you against your will. That's why they do it when you're a baby, because you can't fight back and say, no, I don't want it. So they turned everybody into babies through fear in 2020. I'm interested. Do you know anybody that passed away after they got this? Because I lost family and friends immediately after they took that stuff. And they were healthy too. Healthy people. Brain swelled up, heart swelled up, and died. And we weren't allowed to go to their funeral or viewing because their death was recorded as COVID. I don't know, folks. I mean, maybe you forgot about all that stuff. Maybe you forgave them. Maybe you can look past it. It's still a stick in my craw, man. They got rich off of all that stuff. They took things from me and my family that money can't pay for. We had family members die in hospitals that we couldn't visit. And they were crying in FaceTime. And it doesn't quite do it for you. But you're getting to see what real evil looks like. And it's laughing at all of us. Because what are you going to do? You're not voting them out. You're not changing it by voting. The people that you are going to vote for in November, if that even happens, none of them have a solution for this stuff. They all want these migrants coming in because it destabilizes everything. You send your kids to these public indoctrination centers they call schools, and you come to find out that they're telling them to go out there and picket, learn to picket and protest. If my kids were in public school And I found out that those progressive teachers were having them go out there and talk about, you know, rallying against ICE. Listen, I don't care who you are, what it's about. They could be picketing anything. They could protest anything. You have no right to tell my child to go outside while they're supposed to be in school learning something, part of a curriculum. You're not teaching my kid to be a degenerate. You're not being paid to do that. And to see the schools just take a step back and say, well, you know, what can we do? Well, you can pull your kid out of school. That's what you can do. But you don't understand. I can't afford it. You can't afford to what? Take care of your child? Because that's what that is. These people are sick. And they're going for the youth. And if they can get them, if we're going to keep them alive, then they're going to seize their mind. But if they can knock them off in the womb before they ever make it in this world, they'd rather do that because they can make a whole lot of money with their body parts. That's the depth of evil. It's disgusting. And these people have been doing these things for thousands of years. They're all part of the same families, and it's always been like this. And now, everybody on the planet knows about it. So vampires really are real. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to vote them out because you don't know who the next person is. When you really get down to it and you think about it, it's awful, isn't it? It's got to be something better than this, right? If it can be this bad here, surely there's got to be something better. I know some of you like to say, well, if you believed in a God, why is he allowing all this stuff? Well, this is the byproduct of sin. He told you this is what's going to happen. Wasn't going to have to be like this if sin never entered into the world. Choice was given, choices were made, consequences, we're reaping them. And it gets a whole lot worse from here. If you're making lots and lots of money, and I'm thankful to having been a part of that to help you get there, that's wonderful. But if you're going out there just buying stupid stuff, overpriced cars, overpriced watches and clothing, and going on trips just to spend money stupidly just so you can go on social media and tell everybody what you did, you are a fool. You're a fool. And you're going to feel it the worst when it comes down. It ain't going to be safe for you to go and do what you're doing, whipping around on your little recreational vehicles in the water, at your meetups, showing your little cars here and there. When things get so stupid, even these prop firms aren't doing it. And you need that money just to get bread and bologna to feed your kids. And I'm not saying you should eat bologna. Something really, really, really big is about to happen. And if you can't see it, man. Like we're at that precipice. We're right there. We're right there teetering on the edge. Things can't stay like this and continue getting worse. There's going to be a breaking point. And I said this in the other stream. it's hard not to believe that the people that live their life just not wanting to be fucked with are going to wake up and say, you know what? There's no other way out. And they're going to be starting to do shit. And once other people that think like that see a number of them making a move, they're all going to come awake. And then what's the left going to do? They're going to do the normal shit that they do. And they have the perfect situation where the government comes in and brings the solution. And we are in a full-blown fucking police state. Show me your papers. You can't go here. You are not allowed to leave your house. You're not allowed to do this. You can't pay for that. You can't buy that. Your money is inaccessible. I know some of you are laughing, thinking, this is never going to happen. Yes, it fucking will. What do you think they want digital currency for? To turn your money off. See, I have lots of cash. You got cash, you can go out there and buy whatever the fuck you want as long as you got the right denomination. You can do it. You can do that. But when everything goes digital, they can put thresholds where you can only spend this much and you can't spend it on that. Do you really want to live in a world like that? Do you want to be under the thumb of a oppressive, controlling government like that? In the United States, our founding fathers had no interest in it at all. At all. In fact, they said the moment we give ourselves over to a central bank theory or methodology, it's over. And that's why they want to put those things in every country. And if the opposition is seen because of the leadership, well, Team America comes in there and spreads a little democracy, and there's a regime change. And that's what they're about to do in Iran. Like it or not, that's what they're going to try to do. And the word, whether you believe it or not, says there's going to be a response soon. And you can read it in Ezekiel 38 and 39. And if you really understand what you're looking at, it's describing nuclear fallout. And the only way that that time in history and the vocabulary they were using could describe it. Read it and see. You are living in a time, we are living in a time that is both exhilarating and exciting if you're a person of faith like I am. What, you like all this stuff? No, I didn't say I like people getting harmed in war. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I'm blessed to see what many people hoped they would live long enough to see. And if we're seeing it get ugly like this, to such a degree where corruption is everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. At this point, who's not a pedophile? I mean, you can look back and listen to sound bites and video clips of people that you probably looked up to as a celebrity or a sports figure, and they've probably said something that went right over your head. But now, all of a sudden, if you hear that played back, it's like, were they telling on themselves right there? Did they forget where they were at? Did they let their mask slip? I don't know. Maybe I'm alone in thinking like this, in a community like this here. Maybe you just don't see it. I'm not trying to convince you. I just have some insomnia. Not because I'm scared. Just I took a late nap and it's messed my schedule up. So here I am. I gotta tell you, meeting my grandson was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Holding him and looking into his eyes, hearing him cry for the first time, feeling his little fingers wrap around my hand, grip my finger with a death grip, feeding him his little bottle and letting him throw up all over my arm. And I look at all these things that God has blessed me with. This wonderful privilege of knowing what I know. And I look around at these evil pieces of shit that's in leadership in everything. And I'm concerned for him. He's vulnerable. And my son he doesn't see everything the way I see it. And I was always very strict as a dad. He was my firstborn. And I wanted to do things the right way. At the time, being a single dad like I was, I thought I was making all the right decisions about how I was raising him and what I would try to keep him from. And being in a split home where his mom and I weren't together, he was exposed to things that I would have never exposed him to. And she was very opinionated because she wasn't able to go to the bank with me. Her and her ex-husband had intentions of taking me to the bank because I had impregnated her. And I take ownership of that. Hey, look, I'm not trying to say I didn't take a part in it. I did, obviously. But I didn't know she was married. And that was wrong. So I have to respect the fact that he's this little boy's dad. And as much as I know and the experience I have in this world, it's very difficult for me to balance the man that I am and the dad that I am to him, but not overstep my bounds and still respect his position as his father. So it's a learning experience for me that I'm going through that I've not considered before. His wife's a teacher, and it makes perfect sense for her to say it's healthy for him to be amongst other children, and she doesn't feel homeschooling would be as effective for his social skills. And if we weren't doing the things that we do today, where kids are allowed to pretend they're fucking dogs, and there's a time of the day where they're allowed to be walked around in the schools on a damn leash, pretending to be an animal, and that's acceptable. I'm sorry. I'm struggling, folks. Like I don't know how to talk to them, and I'm feeling powerless because I don't know how to talk to them in a way that wouldn't come across as me telling them how to raise their kid. Like I don't want to be offensive, but I don't want to sit back quietly either. So I'm wrestling with this. Like I could afford to put this boy in any school. No problem. Like that. but my money doesn't stand against their wishes as to what they want to do with them and how they raise it. And I hope the Lord allows me to stay here long enough to give him every advantage that I can. But if I can't, it's in God's hands. He can do more than I could, obviously. I don't know if I don't know how I would be acting right now if I had a family member that was victimized like these people on that list. I don't know. Like I would be tore up. Like I would be wanting to see people answer for it. And we're not seeing that. We're being told it was a scam, it was a fraud, it's made up. And people are paying millions of dollars to victims that weren't victims. I think that the markets are showing signs of people in high positions making major moves in liquidation. And that's why they've afforded the markets to stay in these big, large ranges. The rats are bailing, jumping ship. And if I were doing that, if I was controlling it, I would send it up and make a higher high just to throw everybody off and then sink it the rest of the year all the way down. Warren Buffett, largest cash reserves ever in his whole entire life. Mr. Wonderful. Mr. Midas Touch. Wealthiest investor ever in existence. Spent months on months slowly liquidating and building a cash reserve. Why? Don't tell me because he's retiring. Somebody else is going to be at the helm. Just because he's retiring doesn't mean anything. They know what's coming. They know. The question is, do you know what you're going to do if shit hits the fan? Like, what are you going to do? What can you do? Some of you probably think, well, I don't know. I'm just going to have to deal with that bridge when I get to it. And I get it. I understand. But don't fall victim to the stupidity because they want people losing their minds and getting out in the street and acting a fool. Because that's what they want. Because then their mind, they're justified to go out there and dropping the hammer. And in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights is literally toilet paper. It's crazy when you think about it. Like, you see movies like Hostel. I was a younger man when it first came out. I watched that movie, and I didn't even finish it, and I would have never considered looking at the second one. I think there's just two parts, maybe a third one. I don't know, but I never watched the second one because the first one was just like, what in the world? And because I know people, a lot of people all around the world, really. Some of them said, look, that stuff is a real thing. Like, it really is like that. And I'm like, hell no, I ain't going to these foreign countries like that. No way. I'm not doing it. And you think the weirdest, darkest stuff that's been put in movies as plots to this nightmarish scenarios. These children were enduring worse than that. How awful. And you think it's suddenly just stopped. It didn't. Right now, while we're sitting here in the comfort of our homes, maybe you're at work listening to me, maybe you're doing something else, maybe you're hearing it as a recording, I don't know. Look around. None of that stuff's happening to you. Your children, maybe they're in bed like mine. No one's doing anything to them but somebody else's daughter or son that's being done to them. Doesn't that fucking boil your blood? Doesn't it make you want to fucking just scream like, you sick sons of bitches? And who's doing anything about it? Who's really doing something about it? We got these Somalis coming in here. Obama plants them over there in a certain state. Boom, all kinds of fraud. What do we got to do? We got to hire all these people, ICE agents, and give them immunity. They can do anything they want and go out there and round them up. Okay. You have millions of forms of evidence with their fucking names on them, exchanging sick ass shit. I think it's time to move on. Let's get on to more important things. I'm sorry, folks. This doesn't sit right. That doesn't sit right with me. And I don't give a fuck what any of you think that, well, you didn't vote, you don't have a say in this matter. And go fuck yourself. I'm not a sucker, because I know that voting shit don't work. 2020, Georgia's bringing forth the evidence that that shit was cooked. Can't do anything about it now. That's how it always is. But that shit was stolen. No election's ever going to be legit. It's never going to be legit. You're not going to have anybody. Where's the new lifeblood leadership that's going to come in here and take things back to the way it should be? Law and order, preservation of our rights and liberties. Nobody. Even Republicans are showing that. To the good old boy club, they're not saving shit. And Democrats aren't even Democrats. They're something else. I grew up, my family was always Democratic. They were the Democrats. Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. They hated Republicans. They couldn't stand it. My Uncle Stanley tried to get me into trading thinking as a 13 and 14-year-old. Always was a Democrat. Trump was the only time he voted as a Republican. His words, the year of 2016, his words came out and said, I've been a Democrat my entire life, and I don't know what the fuck this is. This ain't the Democrats. There's something else going on here. And you know what he said? This is a Bolshevik revolution. And I never heard anybody else say that shit until years later. Isn't that wild? You look around. That's the playbook. They want communist ideology. until it's no longer useful. You can't trust your leadership, folks. You can't. You can't vote them out. And they want to tax you more and more and more. While everything's already expensive. They want to take away your liberties and your freedoms, and they want to give greater liberties and freedoms to people that are not natural born citizens of your country. Everybody else's ideology is allowed, even if it's extreme, but yours isn't. You're not allowed to be patriotic. You're an extremist. The fuck out of here, man. Where did we lose our way? Like, where did any of this stuff become acceptable? We've always had Muslims. We've always had Somalians. We've always had fucking fruitcakes. You want to sleep with the same sex? Who gives a shit? Don't try to bring that shit on me or push it on my kids. I'm Generation X. We're going to tell you right to your fucking face. You're a fucking clown. You're a fruitcake. But it's your fucking business. Don't push it down my throat and I ain't got to worry about it. We tolerated everything. We were the last generation of real toleration. Toleration. Now, everything, I don't have any tolerance for shit anymore because it's so lunatic fringe. Everything's extreme of everything. And that's what they want. They want maximum chaos. They want maximum division. And you don't think that's going to affect the markets? You don't think that's going to affect your way of living? And I don't know. I don't know there's an answer to that. I don't know the answer. I'm not smart enough to know the answer. And I'm not certain there's anybody else that has an answer. There's going to be a day where I don't have anything to say to encourage you. And you might be experiencing that right now. You're like, man, this is some doom and gloom shit, man. Yeah, it's not a cheerleading session. It's just take it to heart. Look around. It's easy to get caught up in what we do and think that, on this side of the fence, we're immune to it all. Maybe you're not. Maybe I'm not. What are you doing to just make sure within your own power, within your own financial means, what are you doing to at least tell your family, hey, I did the best I could to do what I could with what I have? Because just walking around pretending like it's not going to happen, it's not going to be a problem for you. Oh, this is some science fiction shit. In Kids Stream, I said this. I said, imagine going back in 1985, if you've lived that long, and describing to someone what we just saw happen during the COVID horseshit. They would say it was never going to happen. Now teleport to 2019 and try to tell somebody it was going to be like that too. I did, and people laughed at me. Some of you listening right now have been laughing this entire conversation. And I want so badly to be wrong. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. But look at the trajectory we're on. Can you honestly say that you're in the same world you were familiar with just 10 years ago? I don't recognize this place. Like, I don't recognize it. People are so fucking hateful, so mean-spirited and spiteful. It's no longer just a fun competition. Just, let me try to do something and do good. No, I want to destroy, victimize everybody else. There's no good in the world anymore. Cold outside, wasn't it? We have some foxes that come around all now, and I'll take food and I'll set it out for them, and they have like a time they come by my house every night. And Scout, she knows their schedule, so she likes to be out there. she wants to catch them. I think it's a mom and a cub. So she's out there teaching them how to forage, I guess. But anyway, I think I'm getting close to feeling tired enough to lay down. If you hung out with me, that was cool. Maybe I helped you pass some time at work, or if you were by yourself and didn't have anything else to get stuck in. Maybe I bored the shit out of you. Maybe you're ready for bed too. But I want to say this and close it. Everything going forward from here on is going to be meant to get you so fucking pissed off to make irrational decisions and do dumb shit. You're not going to do no 1776. You're not going to get out there in the streets and be a vigilante. You're not going to tear up your shit. You're not going to look at your neighbor. Who's that? Anybody that's not you. You're not going to look at them even if they're from another country, whether they're here legally or not. You're not going to look at them and say, you're the fucking problem. Because they're not the fucking problem. They're not. The people that planted them here, that's the problem. And you can't reach these people. They don't have a name. So you're seeing emails that have their names redacted, but that's not the real people. They're just the pawns behind all this stuff. The real players, the real families, you would never fucking live if you spoke their name. And that's the reality. And what they're doing is they're offering those individuals they've used for decades up as a sacrifice. Their usefulness has been expired. So don't look at the person they're calling the other team and think that you should do something to them, because that's the trap. Hating each other, fighting with one another, that's exactly the goal. Because once everything goes to digital currency, and if people get stupid enough that they drop the hammer, and we become a police state, and that's so easy to do. That's so easy to do. It's going to be real easy to say, you need this inoculation, or you can't participate. Your money is no longer any value. You can't travel. Why would they want to pass a fucking bill that allows every vehicle to have a kill switch? Yeah, it's funny. I talked about that in 2020 membership. mentorship students. It's funny how that fucking shit's working, isn't it? Every car is going to have a kill switch. That means if they don't want you traveling, why would they want that? Probably didn't hear about that, did you? Don't take my word for it. That's where shit's going. They want to lock your money down, and they want to lock you down. And if they can't let you travel, they can't let you spend your money, and they give you instructions, and you don't comply, you stay outside the system. But what happens when your kid needs a medicine? They really need a medicine. You know, like insulin. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Huddleston. You just don't look like you're up to date on your necessary preliminaries here. And your paperwork says that you didn't get this or that. So without that, we can't provide medical services to your child. What are you going to do in that situation? That's where we're heading, folks. That's why they want everything digital. That's why they want kill switches in your fucking car. That's why all these people that got shot up with shit in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and so many people even in 2025. It's crazy. Some people are so fucking stupid and asleep, they don't even see it. Like, you can sit down with them and show them, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at that. Why would any of these things be viewed as beneficial to us? As a citizen, as a country, as a populace, as humans. You want fucking taskmasters over you? Slave drivers? Owners? Because it's what they're doing right now. They're putting everybody into checkmate, where you have to make a decision. You make a decision that says, I'm not part of this, I'm not complying, and that's a checkout. See you later. Or you live here for a short period of time under the pressing thumb. That's not living. And a lot of people can't see it. They can't see it. They don't see it being ushered along. And what's weird is a lot of people deny it's happening. And there's a few that can see it happening, and they deny it wasn't foretold. That to me is crazy. But anyway, on that cheery and delightful sentiment, I'm going to wish you all a very pleasant evening. I'm going to retire and get some shut-eye. I will not be doing a Twitter space tomorrow. I jumped on this because I just couldn't sleep. I am tired now. I'll be celebrating my 25th wedding anniversary tomorrow with my wife. And it's Cameron's birthday tomorrow, and it's Valentine's Day. If you have not gotten your significant other a token of your appreciation and love, you might want to do that. Gentlemen, it'd be interesting if you sat down and wrote a nice, short love letter. Don't go buy a card. That's the stupid, cheap way out. Take the time to sit down and write what your heart says about the person you love. I promise you, they'll appreciate that more than a Hallmark card. Because you never would have said that bullshit in that card anyway. She knows it and you know it. So with that, have a good evening. Be safe, and I'll talk to you on Monday, Lord willing.